Welcome to our podcast, Learn Biblical Greek, brought to you by Dr. William Stewart, the co-founder of Telios. This captivating podcast teaches you biblical Greek through a verse-by-verse study of the book of Ephesians, interjecting Greek grammar, Greek word meanings, and vital theology concepts. Thanks for joining us on this exciting biblical journey. Your study will be more effective if you use the Greek text with the Bible word codes, either on the eSword download or Bible Hub website. These links are on our podcast website at www.teliosresearch.com.
Hi, I'm William Stewart, co-founder of Telios. Welcome back to our podcast on learning biblical Greek. Get that Greek text out, hopefully with the Robinson's notes telling you declension and parsing. We have other resources on the website. Read my disclaimer. We start chapter 4 of Ephesians today. Remember, Ephesians is an epistle from the Apostle Paul, so directions to the church. It's very efficient in how it discusses Christology and soteriology, otherwise about Christ and salvation and the Christian walk. We come to chapter 4, verse 1 today, a great transition part, or at the beginning of this chapter is a great transition from the theology, what I would call the foundation of our salvation and the structure of the church, to the practical application of the church in our lives and the Christian walk. So let's start chapter 4 and verse 1, which sounds a lot like Ephesians 3:1. And here we go. So parakalo, so a verb, and very common in the noun, paraklesis, I think. And I beseech, comfort, I comfort, or comfort, and as far as a noun, and pleading. So Paul pleads here. So it's a verb. Let's go through it. So we look for a prefix first. It's there, para, and kleo, which would be to call. And it's in the first person singular and the present tense. So easy this time. So great for Paul. Therefore. Now this should be the first word. You would think typically it's called postpositive, so it can't present first in a phrase. And like gar, also the same thing. And you'll see this also in Latin. So, and I don't know if that's, I shouldn't really say that, common in Latin. If you look at the Latin Vulgate, Jerome will emulate the word order into the Greek as much as possible. So he does use a similar word like ergo, postpositive, but I don't know if it's required. So I'm not a good Latin expert. I'm not a Greek expert, but glad you're studying with me. So therefore, so when you see therefore, you should be asking, why is that there? And again, it tells you that what's about to be said is based on the prior verses or passages or chapters. In this case, I think it's chapters where first chapter 1, Paul discusses the blessings of our salvation. There's his model prayer, and then he talks about salvation itself, becoming a Christian, and then reconciliation. And in chapter 3, or into chapter 2, then begins to talk about the structure of the church based on those who've come to salvation. And then chapter 3, the first half, the knowledge of that church, which he provides, does most of that. And then the model prayer itself, the second one. So here we're coming to the practical application of our salvation and our membership in the church, 1 Corinthians 12:13. Umos. So this, as you know by now, is you. It's the plural accusative. So I beseech you. Therefore, I beseech you. I, ego, like we get ego in English. O desmios. So desmios here means prisoner, literally chain. Interesting in science, medical science, a desmosome is a series of proteins or proteinaceous structure, I think it's a protein, that links cells together. And if we didn't have desmosomes, all the cells would fall apart away from each other and flake off. We'd all fall apart. So they're pretty important. So it comes from this word. So I, a prisoner, in curio. So again, we have this a common preposition in, taking the dative. As always, it's static, in place, taking the dative. Curio, Lord. So you can also translate this in the Lord as the preposition itself can imply the article. Axios, worthily. So that omega s is one of the endings for a adverb, which we would say ly usually in English. Peripatasai. So again, we have verb. Let's walk through it. Is there a prefix? Yes, peri. Is there an augment? No. So it tells you it's not an indicative past tense. Pate is the root. Eta is the connecting vowel to the tense formative in this case, SA. I really shouldn't say it's a connecting valve. It's a contract verb, pateo. So the root ends in the e, and the omega, of course, is the dictionary form of the first person singular. So you take that off, you get the root pate. Sounds like you could eat it. Good. And then if you put the SA in front of it, the tense formative often will then lengthen a vowel that's ending, the vowel ending of a root of a verb. So it goes from E to eta. SAI, of course, is the infinitive aorist. Aorist, as you know, is that one-time punctiliar tense of a finished activity. So to walk. Now, I can't find this written anywhere, but the power of the aorist versus the present tense, continuous tense, is pretty weak in the infinitive. It doesn't really mean much. In fact, the infinitive has disappeared in modern Greek. That's how little it meant to the Greeks, but it's used pretty commonly in the New Testament. Tis klesios. So calling, tis, as you see, is the short word starts with T, so it makes you think of an article. And indeed, it's the genitive feminine singular, not matching its noun, so it makes you think third person. The OS is the one of the genitive singular endings for the third declension, not third person, third declension. East, again, short word, but there is no T in front, A to S, so it's a genitive singular feminine, but makes it a relative pronoun instead of an article. So, of which, and a verb. Is there a prefix? No. Is there an augment? Yes. So it's a past tense indicative. Klero, or really from the verb kaleo, called, kaleo, so part of what we saw in perichoresis, perikaleo before, of which call. And again, we have a tense formative theta eta, and again, it lengthens that E at the end of the root to an eta, just like above with the verb peripatisai. Tense formative theta eta, as you know, is the aorist passive. TE is the second person plural. So what do we have? I, therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you, this is King James, that you walk worthily of the vocation, and really the calling, walk worthily of the calling by which you were called. So I would translate it, therefore, I beseech you, I, the prisoner in the Lord, to walk worthily of the calling of which you were called. Now, calling in the New Testament, calling is in the Greek, secular Greek, a very common general verb, but in the epistles, those letters which dictate to the church, it means salvation. We're called to salvation. We're not called to other things. There might be one instance where it's called to something else or has another meaning, but it's used commonly and basically everywhere. We're called to salvation. Okay, so he's setting the picture here to go forward on this great passage that is to follow. Glad you're here, and please join me next time.